Okay, Algebra 2, Lesson 2.2. We are looking at slope and rate of change. Really, slope and rate of change kind of mean the same thing, okay? So we're going to say that the slope of a line is the rate of change of the line, or how fast the output values change. We use m for slope. Okay. We can define or describe slope as a ratio of the vertical change over the horizontal change. Or you can describe it as rise over run. So to find the slope of a line, all we need is 2 points on the line itself. Okay, so I am looking to find the slope of this line here. I need 1 point here and 1 point here, right? It could be any 2 points on the line. We describe points with an x value, so we're going to say this is x1, y1, and we're going to say this is x2, y2. Okay, so slope is the change in the vertical over the change in the horizontal. So the rise is the change in your y values, and the run is the change in your x values. It doesn't matter which one is x1, y1, and which is x2, y2. All that matters is if you start at this point for the y, you start at this point for the x. So we say slope is rise over run, change in y's over change in x. Okay, again, should be a lot of review here. So we want to find the slope of the line passing through the points -2, -4, and 3, -1. Okay, so slope is change in y over change in x. So change in y, I'm going to start here. So this minus this. -1 minus -4 over change in x. So I started at -1. I'm going to start at 3, -2. So 3 minus -2. Okay, -1 minus -4 is -3. 3 minus -2 is 5. Or this should be +3, sorry. So the slope of this line would be 3/5. No need to make it a decimal, just leave it as a fraction. Okay? With slope, you can have a positive slope. You can have a negative slope. You can have a 0 slope. Or you can have an undefined slope. Okay? Positive slope rises from left to right. So it gets, as you move to the right, it gets bigger. Negative slope gets smaller as you move to the right. So this falls. 0 slope means there's no change, right? Because you can have a number here in the denominator, but to get 0 out of division, you need 0 in the numerator. So that means there's no change in y's. So that is going to be a perfectly horizontal line. To get undefined out of division, that means you have a number divided by 0. We can't divide by 0, so that means there's no change in x. So you have a perfectly vertical line. Okay, 4 types of slope. Back to that for a second. So with positive slope, okay, the steeper the line, the greater the slope. With negative slopes, the one with the greatest absolute value is steepest. Slope of 0, our horizontal lines we consider flat. There's no change. And then our vertical lines we consider infinitely steep. Okay? All right. With slope, we can talk about parallel lines. And we can talk about perpendicular lines. Parallel lines means they change at the same rate. So they're never going to intersect. Okay, so since they change at the same rate, we say lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal. So line M and line L, we would say that M is parallel to L. They have the same slope. Perpendicular lines mean they intersect at a right angle. So when we look at their slopes then, that means that lines are perpendicular if and only if their slopes are the negative reciprocal of each other. Because with perpendicular lines, what you're looking for is the product of their slopes to equal -1. So the slope of one is the negative reciprocal of the other. So we say that M is perpendicular to L. It's an upside down T. Okay, so those are all of our definitions. Few examples, okay. We want to decide if the line rises or falls, horizontal or vertical. And we're going through the point -2, 3, and 1, 5. Or then the second one, 1, -2, 3, -2. So we're going to calculate the slope. Okay, slope is rise over run, or change in y over change in x. Okay, so change in y, here's, we're going from 5 to 3. Change in y, over change in x, so 1 minus -2. 5 minus 3 is 2. 1 minus -2 is +3. So it's a positive slope, so this line rises. Second 2 points, same thing. Change in y, so -2 minus -2 over change in x, 3 minus 1. 2 minus -2 is 0. 3 minus 1 is 2. 0 over 2 is 0. So that means this is a flat line, so it is horizontal. Okay, given two lines, we want to decide which is steeper. Okay, so line 1 passes through the point 1, -4, and 5, 2. Line 2 passes through -2, -5, and 1, -2. So we're going to compare their slopes. So slope of line 1, change in y, 2 minus -4, over change in x, 5 minus 1. 2 minus -4 is 6. 5 minus 1 is 4. Reduce that to 3 over 2. Do the same thing for line 2. Find its slope. Change in y, so -2 minus -5 over change in x, 1 minus -2. -2 minus -5 is +3. And 1 minus -2 is 3. 3 over 3 is 1. So they're both positive slopes. So we're just looking to see which is a bigger value. So 3 over 2 is greater than 1. So line 1 is steeper. It has a greater slope. Okay, parallel, perpendicular, neither. Line 1 passes through the point -2, -2, and 4, 1. Line 2 passes through the point -3, -3, and 1, 5. We're going to find the slope of line 1. Change in y, so 1 minus -2 over change in x, 4 minus -2. 3 over 6, or 1/2. Then find the slope of line 2. Change in y, 5 minus -3 over change in x, 1 minus -3. So that would be 8 over 4, or +2. So look at our two slopes. We have 1/2 and 2. Are they opposite signs? One positive, one negative. They're not, so these are neither parallel nor perpendicular. They're not the same, but they're not opposite reciprocals. Okay, so that is lesson 2.2 for Algebra 2.